Okay, in this tutorial we're going to carry on looking at unwrapping. Let's come into overchip mode. So what I've done from the last part, part 1, is basically destroy the UVs. So here you can see we have no texture at all on the plane. We only have textures on two sides of the cube. On the cylinder, okay, kind of from the front, but on the sides, awful. And the sphere, again, okay on the sides, but on the front and back, awful. So, what can we do to apply UV coordinates? Let's start from the most basic. So if I click on the plane and go up to this time create UVs, we have these different options. We're going to look at a couple of these. So let's first of all look at planar mapping. Planar mapping's the most basic kind of UV mapping type. It was the only one originally used back in the olden days, and it's still used quite heavily. I still use it quite a lot. Kind of an old school method, but it's sometimes the most effective. So let's look at this. I'll go into the options. So I have a couple of things. The fit projection is just whether it fits inside the bounding box within this, or it kind of suits itself to the shape itself. Project from is really the important thing. What we have on this is basically our camera projection, where this invisible plane is projecting from onto the surface of this. So we want this to come from the top. So we want it to come on our Y axes. So click on Y, apply. Okay, fixed. I'm just going to do that a second. I'll just bring up the UV texture editor. So you can see on this one, if we just look at our UVs right now, drag selection around, we only have these UVs from the side. And that's what was causing the problem with this. There's no texture there. This is because we can't actually see these polygons in the UV window. We can only see these edges. So it's only applying the texture to the edges essentially, which it can't really do. It doesn't apply anything to the polygons. And that's actually because of the way I did that planar map in the first place. What I did is did it from an x-axis. So I did it from the side instead of from the y. Equally, the z-axis would cause the same kind of problem there. So let's just click back on the y-axis. Oops, make sure go into object mode and apply that. And there, fixed. Another quite useful feature about, well, useful in some cases, is the ability to also do create UVs on this. Just go back into planar mapping. The ability to project from the camera as well. So if we had just one side of this sphere that we were really bothered about texturing, maybe we just wanted this front part, the side part here, looking really nice, we weren't really bothered about the back of this. So what we can do is get the camera where we want this looking the best, and we can project from our camera. Okay. You do have controllers on this, by the way. I've not been using them right now, but we can go in and actually scale this up and down as well, depending how big we want this in UV space, considering, of course, again, the bounding box. So what it does initially is build it up to the bounding box and no further. We can scale this in or out horizontally, okay, and vertically as well. So you can do this on the fly just before you change it. If you click over to the move tool, for example, it kind of loses that gizmo. So what we have with this now, let's just close this. It looks quite nice from that view. As you start to come round to the back, it's kind of projecting through to the back as well, but you see the sides really wouldn't cut it. But if you only had a static projection there, a static image, or even just a slight movement, could give you some of the textures you need. I'll go back to the box in a second. I'm just going to go onto the cylinder now. So with the cylinder, remember what it did before, it split up the sides and the top. So we can actually project UV maps onto UV coordinates onto certain surfaces and apply separate ones to separate polygons. If I just go in, right click and go into face and just select the side faces of this. And I'm going to go in and do a cylindrical mapping. Again, let's just look at the options to this. Not much. Okay. Don't want to create a new UV set. Let's just apply this. So what this has done, let's come around. Let's give us a decent interpretation of this. We can always go into this. If I just right click over here in the UV text editor, just anywhere really, control right click and do 2 UVs, and then we can scale those out further. Get those looking a bit better. And then ultimately we need to scale the whole thing down into the boundaries. Okay. So if I just drag this to the side actually and drag around my other UVs just around this area, what we're looking at is we're getting a strange effect on these. We're not really getting any UVs at all right now. Again, as if we were projecting from the side rather than the top. So we can grab these. I should be able to deselect. Oops. Control. Sometimes it's. Let's see if we can do it from here. Okay. Let's do this in polygon mode anyway. Just make sure I'm in Q. So Q, keyboard select, can't speak. Keyboard shortcut for select rather than move. Just grab those, and I'm gonna switch this off. Planar mapping. Planar mapping from the Y. Get that. Move this to one side. And let's do the same thing with these on the bottom. Remember just pressing shift down on this. Do the same thing. Projection map. Just bring this to one side. And now over here, let's just go into our UVs. Comparative sizes, these are huge, so just going to move this down. So remember, you can click on a few of these, control right click to shell, move these down. Let's grab these and let's scale these down. Just considering the size of these again, as I did in part 1. Okay. Bring all of these in. Give these another scale. Just a problem catching up there. There we go. Give that a scale, and there we have our results. Let's look at this one now. The sphere. So the obvious one for this, we've looked at kind of a planar mapping effect. Obviously we just did a straight planar mapping from any one of the views. We will get a similar effect to this. It would only look good on the top and bottom, or the left and right, front and back. So we have our obvious spherical mapping in there. Again, not many options. Okay, let's put this on. Just open our UV text editor while we're here. And you can see it's trying to do a similar kind of thing, but what it's doing is actually welding these points in. So we can change the width of this, we can change... Where are we? Bring this out. So these little controllers, we can change where this is actually cutting from. So whereabouts in the object we want the cut to be. So if you start bringing this more, there you can see sort of evening that out a little bit better. Click on the green one here, we can scale this horizontal, vertically. Okay, so about that. Again, control, right click to UVs. And then let's scale the whole thing down. I'm going to position. We have an errant UV here, so let's just grab this guy, UVs, and let's just move this in. And you could spend some time fixing all this up. But there we've got an equivalent kind of thing. It's got a little bit of a slant on it. Could just rotate that around. It doesn't really matter because we're just using the checkerboard as an example. But there we have our UVs, apart from the cube. So let's go into the cube. So with the cube, I'm going to use a automatic mapping. So with automatic mapping, it kind of bases around planar mapping. But rather than doing one plane, it allows you to do multiple planes at one point, at one time. So again, let's go into the options. A few different options, but basically, the amount of planes is the amount of planar maps that you have on this. I want one per face, so I'm going to have 6 on this, as it was on there. If it's a more complex object, we can create less distortion when we're mapping. We can create fewer pieces, so we can try to join pieces together. But let's just do an apply on this again. Just open the text editor up and apply. And what this has done is actually, I don't know if you can see on this, let's bring this out a little bit. It's created this set of planar maps around this object. Okay, one from each side. So that's given us these separate 6 sides on this particular object. Again, we can go in here, we can just grab UVs and grab any one of these to shell. So these are our ones here. And what we can actually do is we can reconnect these back up if we wanted to. So let's look at this. Just try to figure out where we are on here. Okay. In my space. So that's the front there. That's the side. Now selecting this way is a bit more tricky. Let's grab this one. It's better to do it to the shell. Otherwise you might select something you don't actually want. So I think that goes there on the side. Anyway, let's look at this. If we just go into edge mode, so right click edge. Let's select this one and actually See there? That's the edge it should have been. It's rotated round a bit. Again, I'll just go into UV mode and just move this aside. And let's look at our edges for this. So is this. So anyway, let's grab that one. And then a brilliant tool in this, we can go to polygons, move and sew edges. And that just sews those two together again. Let's do the same on this one. Move and sew edges. Brilliant. And we could carry on doing that. I could go through to say this edge here. Move and sew edges. Grab this one. Move and sew edges. Grab this one. Okay. And there we have our coordinates back. Again, we just need to grab these. Let's do 2 UV. Move these in. Scale these down. Okay. Apart from a little oddness where that's just where it's tiling round on the cylinder, by the way, which we don't need to worry about too much. Okay, or not in this instance anyway. So that's just a basic look at actually creating UVs and objects. Hope that's been useful. The next thing we'll look at is a more complex object and how to break that down into different parts. So that's the end of part 2.